So when I'm working on a song, the first thing I usually do is I'll go through a bunch of records and, you know, go through each song and those records and try to figure out, you know, what I want to do. You know, try to sample it and try to figure out how do I want to, you know, manipulate the sample to turn it into a new song. So here I already figured out a song that I wanted to chop up. I knew what feel I wanted to go with. This song is, this beat is actually for a song that I wanted to make let me see, I came up with the idea about, I guess, a couple weeks ago. You know, comic books and cartoons. So that'll be on the Writing on a Mind album. I wanted to go for the, you know, the whole 60s, 70s, you know, TV show type of feel, stuff you would hear on like the Avengers and Batman and the Green Hornet and whatnot. You know, that whole big band jazz type of feel. So I didn't want to take the actual theme song from an actual show. I wanted to basically make up my own. Well, not really make up my own, but sample something that sounded like it came from a TV show. So I found this one from Buddy Rich's band. The name of this song is called Nutville. When I heard it, it was pretty much perfect. So right now I'm taking this and I'm chopping it up into you know, small pieces so I can take it into the program and chop it up into even smaller sections. So I can take that and, you know, manipulate it, flip it around, speed it up, slow it down, whatever I need to do with it to make it sound exactly like what I want it to sound like. And of course, you know, throw my own drums on top of it and eventually rap on that. So now that I got everything chopped up into, well, smaller pieces than the original song, but still pretty big pieces, you know, at least a minute, minute and a half, maybe even 2 minutes long. But here, in the process that I'm going through now, is you just take these pieces that you took out of the song and making them even smaller. So that way, when I come over to my MIDI controller, in this particular case, what I use almost all the time is my MPD-24. It's just a 16 pad controller, very much like the MPC. When I take these different little slices and whatnot, they're automatically mapped onto the pads for the controller. And I can take that and shift them around. I can put them in literally any order that I want to, because these are just individual pieces. You can kind of think of it as notes. Basically, they're notes, but instead of them just being notes like you would see on a piano, or notes that you would see on any kind of instrument, a guitar, trumpet, any kind of instrument, instead of it just being a constant sound, this is just pieces from an actual song. So when I go through this process, it can get pretty repetitive, because I have to go in and here I have to be even more precise, because I want to get to the absolute beginning, or whatever it is that I'm thinking in my mind, the absolute beginning of either the beat or usually the beginning of a specific phrase that I'm hearing. So I usually tend to have a little more focus on something that I'm chopping up. So here you can end up hearing many sections of this song a whole lot of time, because I'm trying to not just get the beginning of that section, but make sure that the end of it ends at the exact right place. I don't want too much of the next part coming in, because if I use it all the way to the end of it, then I might end up with a little tiny piece that kind of snaps in the audio and it kind of distorts it a little bit and whatnot. And that's kind of bad. This part can take a while. It actually takes a lot longer than chopping, because when you're chopping, you're just taking big slices, but here, because it's so much more precise, it can take a lot more time. And also, I get a lot more frustrated if something happens, with, you know, my computer crash or the program crashes and I didn't save the slices that I made. So here I finally have all the slices the way I want them, at least for now, because I can end up changing the slices and everything. But in this particular situation, I didn't change anything, but I did change the pitch of it quite drastically. Actually, for this song, I actually ended up lowering the pitch so that it goes slower, because it's actually a quite fast song. And then the pitch shifter that I put on at the end makes it a higher pitch without adjusting the speed. So I come through here and I try to figure out whatever pattern that I want to go through for the whole song, mainly the verse, and anything for the chorus that I want to change up, anything for the bridges, intro, outro, anything like that. So here, after I figure out in my head what I want to do with the sample, and sometimes I'll even, after I figure out what I want to do with the sample, I'll go and just program any pattern that I figured out, especially if the pattern is rather simple and repetitive as well. But if there's anything that there's a lot of changes, or the pattern is a little bit complex in terms of the pad arrangement, then I usually record it. In fact, most of the time I record. But in this particular instance, because the pattern arrangement was rather simple, I just went ahead and programmed it inside a Podium instead of recording it, because I didn't need to record it. Something else I'll do a lot is, I just do the pattern and then just adjust it afterwards, which usually end up having to do it almost all the time, because I'm human, I'm not perfect, so I have to come into the computer and tighten it up so that it loops perfectly. So here I'm trying to figure out the drums, any drums that will sound good with the sample, because I can't just pick just any old drums and go in and start making a beat. I have to pick something that I think will fit well. Then even after that, I end up raising or lowering the pitch. I'll pan them left or right to give a surrounding feel to it. Here I'm adjusting the attack and the start times of the different drums that I layer on here, even offset them a little bit, set the pattern so that they all play at the same time but a little loose, so that way it'll automatically adjust the offset of each drum just a tiny bit, not quite enough to be really noticeable to the average person, but just noticeable enough to the subconscious mind that it sounds a little more humanized. So after I figure out what drums that I want to use, and I'll even go and play the sample again to remind myself how everything sounds, so that I can keep that in my head and figure out what drums I think will sound good with the song. And this is just a start off. Things will sound a little more drastically different once you get into the mixing process. But here I'm just basically doing preliminary stuff, just going in, picking different drums that I think will sound good, kick drum, snare drum, hi-hat, pretty much standard. I don't really go into the tom drums and other drums like that, because a lot of times I don't need it, but sometimes I do, especially if it's a more jazz oriented type of song. Actually, this is actually pretty jazz oriented. It's big band jazz, but I still want to just focus on just the drums, the snare, the hi-hats, the standard drum kit that you hear in hip hop, because it's going to be more so oriented towards the lyrics, as the music is just a background. So once I figure out what drums I want to get into the song, I come onto my MPD yet again and figure out what kind of drum pattern I want to do. Usually by the time I get to this point, I've already figured out in my head what kind of drum pattern I want, but because music is, you know, a living, breathing thing that can change in any given moment, I usually don't just get my head just completely set on that drum pattern that I set in my head. I'll let the sound dictate the influence that I want to use for any patterns, for anything that I want to do, whether it be a sample or melody or a sample arrangement. But I'll get the pattern together and I'll go in and I'll record it a few times maybe, or, you know, usually I'll go in and record it. I play around with the drum pattern first. I go in and record it, and then I can go in and make some other changes within that. So this beat that I made today, it was actually a fun beat to make. I just knew that I wanted a certain feel to it. I knew I wanted to have that, you know, 60s, 70s, you know, Space Ghost, Johnny Quest type of sound to the song. I mean, the name of the song is Cartoons and Comics, so that's the kind of feel that I wanted to go for. There's actually even more to it. I've even gotten some different samples from actual comic books, which you will hear in the song. I didn't include it here because I felt that it was more so part of the lyrics, which I'm working on right now. But it was a fun song to work on a beat for, and I'm pretty sure that it should be a fun song to write and record as well. Hopefully it'll be pretty nostalgic for any older audiences too. This one would definitely be on the Writing on the Mind LP, so look out for that. Also, I will have shirts available to buy, which will be superhero themed apparel, obviously inspired by this song here. So we'll get out of here, work on some music, some other things. Peace out.